Hello, guys, and welcome to what's sort of kind of a weird podcasty type record. I'm Ben, and I'm joined by Andy. Are you well?
Hello, I'm okay. Hay fever seems to be on the rise at the moment in this wonderful country. But apart from that, no, I'm all right. I'm doing good.
Okay, cool. Right, so basically, I've spent the last actually, by the time this video goes up, I will have spent the last 4 weeks with The Last of Us Part 2.
Right, that's new. That's a new game, isn't it?
It is. It's
Yeah.
out tomorrow as this goes up.
Oh,
So,
okay.
Essentially, I've had I've had a lot of time with it. I've finished the game twice,
Yeah.
reviewed it, gave it 10 out of 10.
Yeah.
I think it's phenomenal.
Yeah.
You know, long and short of it. It's not perfect because nothing is perfect, but it is good enough and does enough to justify the 10 out of 10 review, in my opinion.
And you got that sweet Sony paycheck in your account.
Yeah, mate, I've got a Lamborghini being dropped off
Cool.
next week.
Excellent. Amazing. Paid reviews. Woo!
That is a joke. That is
Absolutely
not serious.
joke. That is sarcastic. If you want some context and insight into that, go check out the comments on the YouTube video that's gone up on our site.
Just don't.
Or don't check the comments. If you want to remain sane, don't go and read the comments on our YouTube video.
I mean, like, look, if people want to say you are a paid shill, you're a paid reviewer, Sony gave you all the money, I would advise, or I would probably send you a screenshot of my bank balance to show you that is very much not the case.
Please don't, because you don't want to make people sad either.
Yeah, exactly. So, anyway, right.
Why are we here?
Well, we're here to talk about spoilers, essentially,
Yeah.
and what was accurate, what wasn't accurate, because what seems to have caused a lot of consternation in the original video and in my review, the written review, is that I said that not all of the leaks are accurate, or some of them. I think the actual wording was something like some of the bigger leaks that the certain sections of the internet are getting pissed off about aren't accurate. And I will stand by that, because when I wrote that piece and when I wrote the review and when it went, got put to video and went live, at that point there were I think there was a video that was doing the rounds that was basically 2 hours worth, or it was supposedly 2 hours worth. But
was this the one that was taken from the test build?
Yes,
that was leaked.
Yes, right. That's right. So,
I mean, disclaimer: I have no interest in The Last of Us 2.
Yes,
that's why I'm here. Hello.
That's why I've got. Yeah, that's basically why I've got Andy in here to talk about it. Because I wanted somebody to bounce off a little bit.
Okay, cool.
So yeah, that original leak, which was 2 hours, I watched it after the fact, and really, it's about 20 minutes of actual story stuff.
Right.
There is a little bit of inconsequential gameplay, and the rest of it is kind of just standing in an area and standing with the menu on and paused and stuff like that. So it isn't 2 full hours like people are shouting and screaming about. But yeah, to sort of get into it, straight off the bat, there are 3 big leaks that were true, and that is that Joel dies. Joel dies very early on in the game.
Okay.
And he dies at the hands of Abby, who hits his head in and smashes his head in with a golf club.
Okay.
So you will be seeing many memes doing the rounds from hilarious people that have read half a story and gone, I'm going to get the PGA edition. So, aren't you a funny fucker? So the other sort of semi... I must apologise. There are some birds in the background.
I've got birds in my background as well. I've got a tree. I have a tree in my front garden, and I'm sat in my bedroom, and my windows are open, and there are a family of starlings having a right go in the tree. It's honestly, you'd have thought there was a barbecue going on somewhere, like family arguments. Anyway, carry on.
Yes. So the next big leak that came out of it that is accurate, that I will address, is that you play you probably play about half the game as Abby. Like, they straight up Metal Gear Solid 2 this game. It's kind of, you get to a certain point in the game and as Ellie, you've kind of gone on this rampage, and you've taken on the group of people that were responsible for killing Joel.
Right.
And
Including the one that you then take control of.
yes, including Abby. So your goal is, as Ellie, your goal is to chase and hunt down Abby and kill her.
Right. Okay.
But at a certain point, Ellie just sort of goes, right, can't find her, sod it, let's go back to our little base and make sure that Dina is safe. Dina is Ellie's girlfriend.
Okay. Cool.
So you get to this part in the game, and there's a big noise, and then Ellie runs out and goes, "What the hell's going on?" And Abby stood there over Tommy, who's Joel's brother from the first game.
Right.
Stood there holding a gun to his head, and she basically says, "Throw your gun down. You killed my friends," and points the gun at Ellie. And basically, you get that bit where it cuts to Ellie, bang, straight cut to black, and the game starts up the next chapter as Abby,
Okay.
as you go back to her past.
Oh, right. So it's a prequel then, is it? The Abby stuff. It's like a.
So the actual the structure of the game is actually quite cool. You play through 3 days in Seattle as Ellie,
Right.
and then when it comes back to Abby, you do a very short prequel, and then you have. I can't remember exactly how it is, but you have a very short prequel, and then it cuts to day one in Seattle, but from Abby's point of view.
Oh, what? So
it's
day one back to the beginning of The Last of Us 1?
No, day one in the beginning of Last of Us 2.
Right,
So
I get you.
In Seattle as Ellie, you play day one, day two, day three.
Right.
And then as Abby, you play day one, day two, day three.
Right.
It's quite a cool idea. I really liked it. I thought it was. I mean, we'll address the situation in a minute, but the third and final leak that was accurate is that at some point, playing as Abby, you fight Ellie.
Right.
So you are in a theatre and you go to fight Ellie. You have to kind of track her down and beat the crap out of her and try and kill her.
Okay.
Now, this is where the leaks got crap, basically.
Did they start making things up based on the information they had? By any chance?
So, okay, I'll run through the leaks that were not true, that at the time of writing were on the internet.
Okay.
And yeah, so Abby kills Tommy. That doesn't happen.
Okay.
Abby kills Dina. That doesn't happen.
Right.
Ellie kills Dina. That doesn't happen.
Okay.
Ellie wants a baby, so tells Dina to get pregnant. That doesn't happen.
Right.
Ellie infects Abby. That doesn't happen.
Okay.
Ellie kills Abby. That doesn't happen.
Right.
Abby kills Ellie. That doesn't happen. And the one that I think has probably caused the most controversy, and the reason that I say that is because I went to the Last of Us Part 2 subreddit, and oh my god, I needed to wash my eyes out with bleach. It was horrendous. Like, essentially, this fake leak is why, in my opinion, this game has garnered so much hate from the alt-right Gamergate crowd.
A certain subsection of the gamer community, Benjamin.
Yes, and that leak is that Abby is trans.
Okay.
It's not true.
It's not true.
It's not true. There is a scene in this game which categorically proves that Abby is not trans.
Okay. And there's nothing in the storyline to hint that.
No.
So
all it is, Abby is a soldier in like the WLF, which is the Washington Liberation Front. So she's part of this kind of army that's being built up, and being a soldier, she obviously works out quite a lot, and she is built like a brick shithouse.
Right.
It's there. It's obvious. She's training quite a lot, and she has relationships with. She's had relationships with guys in the WLF.
Right.
And then at one point, she actually goes to meet up with one of them, and very quickly ends up, shagging him.
Right.
And it's like, okay, right, fine.
Yeah,
That's fine. That's a story. You know, it is possible to be a muscly woman without being trans.
yeah,
I would go
but
on.
not if you're a subset of the gamer community. Apparently, that
Well,
immediately means that you had to be trans.
I mean, honestly, there were so many comments on that last on the review video that when I put the review live, I held all the comments for review so that people weren't just going to jump in the comments and start spoiling everything,
It's allowed to
because
spoilers.
because I
Yeah,
know what the internet's like.
yeah.
So sure enough, a lot of the comments that I held were, Joel gets killed by a ma'am, by a ma'am. It's like, right, okay, so that is the. I mean, I don't know if you're aware of that, of
I
the
am aware of.
horrendous
Yeah,
the dog whistling that is going
yeah,
on
yeah,
there.
yeah, yeah.
Um, and I watched a few other YouTube videos of people talking about these leaks beforehand, and like the actual phrase that was used by one of them, and I shit you not,
Was this actually in the video?
this was in their YouTube video that has hundreds of thousands of views. The actual wording that they used was Joel gets killed by a tranny with a golf club.
Right. Classy. Stay classy.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's not true. Like, it's just flat out that is
Made up.
it's not accurate. Like the
Is it fake news?
it's fake news. Um, I think the problem is that obviously with having a lead character such as Ellie, who is openly gay, and that's not the core purpose of her being. Like having something that isn't entirely about that, it's just an aspect of her character.
Yeah.
I don't see why people have this issue. It's not like they're going, oh well, you must be a lesbian to enjoy this game, you must be gay to enjoy this game. It's like, no, like, just enjoy the fucking game.
You normalize things by not drawing attention to them and just making them part of the story. That's how we normalize things. But
Yeah, I mean, there
reactions
is.
like that in something that isn't to something that isn't, that's just crazy. Come on,
Yeah.
guys, we're better than this.
I mean, there is a scene. There is a scene fairly early on when you're about to head out on patrol, and the what is it? One of the bar owner in the town has had an argument with Ellie the night before,
Right.
and basically he's called an angry dyke, and Ellie responds by calling him a bigot. And the following morning he's like, okay, well, I'm sorry, he's been told to apologize by somebody, so
Yeah.
he says, oh, I've made you some sandwiches, and she hands them off to somebody else and goes, oh, there you go, there's some bigot sandwiches. Like, it's a little gag. It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
I quite liked it, but again, that's being jumped on the internet as a prime example of terrible writing.
People don't like, right, so people don't like being told that they're wrong, though, do they? People don't like being told they're wrong. People don't like the idea that they can't have, and I'm doing air quotes, even though you can't see me because we're social distancing over an app here. They like freedom of speech, and that means I can be a dick if I want to.
I mean, yeah, essentially. Like, so there will be. I have absolutely no doubt in my mind that there will be people screeching in the comments, going, "Oh, but you lied! You said the leaks weren't accurate." It's like, well,
No, you
no, I
said
didn't.
some of the leaks weren't accurate.
I said some of the leaks weren't accurate. Like, that is very true.
Yeah.
Like, some of the leaks are absolute bullshit. But anyway, right. So let me continue where we were with the story. So yes, you start off. You're in Jackson, which is this this sort of little commune that was built up at the end of the first game. I think it's the one Tommy tells you about, and you go there and you sort of build your life again. It's a thriving little town at this point. It's 4 years after the end of the first game, and it's all it's just there. It looks really good. It just looks amazing from the off, like when you're in this town. So as you kind of plod along, you go out on patrol, which is where they go out to clean up infected and just make sure that the locations that they've secured are all okay. then when you're out on patrol, you as Ellie, sorry, you and Dina end up in a library, which you go downstairs. You find out that that was run by a member of the team and a former member of your team who liked to grow his own medicinal marijuana, shall we say?
Jolly good.
And there's a fucking big lot of it as well. It's quite funny. And then they find a jar with some joints that are there. They get high and I think they end up kissing for a little bit.
Right.
And then it cuts to, I think it actually cuts to a scene with Abby. So you're basically playing as Abby quite early on,
Okay.
kind of to put the idea in there of like you may potentially be playing as this other character at some point. So you do that, and you kind of you work your way towards this this like lodge, this big lodge, and you're with a guy called Owen, who was your ex, and you kind of when you're in there, they go, okay, cool, right. Let's find him. You know, we need to find him. You're like, who the hell are they on about? And very quickly you realise, oh, hang on a minute, they're talking about Joel.
Right.
So what happens then? That's yeah. So there's a scene where you're trying to get back to the lodge as Abby, and then you get jumped by some infected, and you end up like crawling through this little semi tunnel of basically infected and a big chicken wire fence, and you end up where Joel is on patrol. So you kind of you get to where this building, and as you're crawling through this little tunnel, Joel picks you up and goes, "Come on, we've got to get out of here," kind of thing. Grabs you, runs away, runs off and tries to basically save you. You end up in this little area with a like a chairlift, like a ski lift. You fight off a load of infected. You go back to the lodge that Abby is at with her friends, because she's basically said to Joel, "Look, we know where this is. Come on, we're here. It's secure. It's safe. We've got guns and all the rest of it." Joel and Tommy go, "Yep, fine, okay." Join them. Escape the infected. Run through the door in the garage and go like, "Oh, that was fine." Jesus. And then there's kind of a bit of an awkward silence, and Joel goes, "Oh, Abby says thank you." I don't think. Actually, I'm trying to remember whether they tell them the names or not before then. But Joel goes, Tommy says, "I'm Tommy, and this is my brother Joel." The air, the atmosphere in the air changes, and then all of a sudden they knock Tommy out. Abby shoots Joel in the leg with a shotgun, and then sort of starts beating him up. Now, the reason that she's got this hatred for Joel is because at the end of the first game, when you kind of go and save Ellie, you murder a surgeon.
Yeah, I never finished the first Last of Us game, but I do remember sort of reading about that a lot of people said that kind of almost throws away some of the ideas of the first game. That it feels like it's an unprovoked attack.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. When I got to that point in the game, I just went in and I shot the shit out of him straight away without even thinking about it.
Yeah,
because I wanted to make sure that Ellie was safe.
Yeah.
But essentially, so it turns out that Abby is the daughter of that surgeon.
Right.
So
it's a Batman v Superman, is it? Recontextualizing the final events of the previous story.
I mean, kind of. I think what's pissed a lot of people off is that they're going, "Oh, that's really convenient, isn't it?" It's like, well,
it's called a story. Stories are based around conveniences, and that's how you build a narrative.
Do you not think that? Do you not think that what they're trying to do is make you realise that these people in real life, they're not, or say in real life, but if this was reality, these people would not just be, these husks, these shells of people.
Yeah,
they have stories themselves. They have families. They have lives. And while when you say it, it sounds quite rote and quite almost tropey. There is this kind of feeling that what The Last of Us Part Two tries to do is essentially tell the story of everybody.
Yeah.
It's why when they were talking about it beforehand, saying that they gave everybody names. So when you kill an NPC in the game, like you'll hear somebody else going Jill, and they'll scream the name of the character because they realise that their friend has died,
Yeah.
and it adds that contextualization.
Yeah.
Now, it's it's hard to say what I'm about to say without sounding like a dick, but
are you going to call everyone listening idiots?
No, I'm trying to think of a better way to phrase it. I wasn't expecting what we got from the game.
Right.
I went in spoiler free. When Joel died, it was a massive, massive shock. Because it's about 3 hours in, so you're getting through it and you're thinking, Jesus Christ, how the hell is this going to happen? But then, as it progresses, like the context that's given in the story is just really good, and it's like a lot of people have been saying, "Oh, it's just a a shitty revenge story," or it's a it's a what was the word that was used?
I mean, so's John Wick when you cut through it, but that's kind of critically acclaimed as a.
This is the point that I'm trying to get to,
Yeah.
because it's like, when people say, "Oh, it's just a shit revenge story," it's like, yeah, but like you say, John Wick killed a dog.
I think that the weird thing that I find is, and this is kind of a more general comment, is people don't seem to like games that try and deliver a solid narrative. I get the impression that there's a large chunk of gamers out there who would just like games to be point the gun and make it go bang. And don't make me think, and don't present me with complex political and social issues to actually have to think about. Don't get politics in my video games.
Yeah.
There are games like that for you if you want to go and play Fortnite and maybe Warzone. Dodge the story part of Call of Duty, which is mildly politicized.
I mean, I think that the interesting thing for
Yeah.
me is just the discussion around how this game has been politicized. It hasn't. Like, it absolutely hasn't.
It's
If you
presenting a
think
story.
if you think this game is trying to force some kind of political agenda down your throat, it's not. Like, it absolutely isn't. It's just the furthest thing that you could think of from that. I mean, in terms of a story, there are obviously themes. There are obviously things that happen that you could turn around and go like, oh well, that wouldn't happen in the real world, or that I mean, the level of violence in the game, for example, is I discussed this in the review, but it's fucking dark. But I mean, it's like you've mentioned John Wick there, and I think the other thing that I said there is about Metal Gear Solid 2, which kind of it brings me on to what I want to say about the embargo. So many people in the comment section in the review and on social media and basically everywhere have turned around and gone, well, you couldn't talk about the second half of the game. That means that you've not reviewed the whole game. That means that it's a paid review. It's a shill review. Let's talk about this for a second. Like, you can sit there and you can say The Sixth Sense is a very good film that has some problems. What you can't sit there and say is The Sixth Sense is a very good film with some problems, and Bruce Willis is a ghost.
Yeah.
Like, you can't sit there in a review and say The Empire Strikes Back is really good. Oh, and Darth Vader's Luke's father.
Yeah. You've got to keep stuff from the viewer, and
I mean, the prime example is Metal Gear Solid 2 with this.
Yeah.
So if you go back, and I distinctly remember this at the time because I bought every single gaming magazine that I could with a Metal Gear Solid 2 review in it, because I wanted to play that game so badly, and I was desperate for anything that I could get. And this was before the internet was YouTube, basically. In fact, I had a VHS tape with the Metal Gear Solid 2 trailer on it. That's
old school.
Yeah, man, it was great.
How many people listening to this are going to actually know what a VHS tape is?
So, I mean, look, you go back to any review of Metal Gear Solid 2 from the time, okay, not ones that have been done after the fact. Like, you go back to 2001 and you look at those reviews and you Control F and you put in Raiden.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Absolutely fucking nothing.
I think,
and that game is excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, that game, and you read the reviews and you look at them and you go, actually, yeah, that reads really well, and that tells you how the game plays. That tells you a lot about the second part of the game. That you know, The Last of Us Part 2 isn't even as egregious with it as Metal Gear Solid 2 was, because Metal Gear Solid 2, you played like 3 hours as Snake.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the game was Raiden.
I got Metal Gear Solid 2. I played the first one on my PC, and I got the second one for my brand new, well, newish at the time PS2, without really having any context other than it's another Metal Gear Solid game. I hadn't read anything about what it was going to be like, and I just bought it because I wanted something to play on my PS2. And I approached it, and it was a shock. It was oh my God, I'm playing as a different character now, because the narrative was doing different things. It zigged rather than zagged, and I think that's where a good narrative goes. And I think it's interesting to go back to the idea of politicizing stories in video games. Metal Gear Solid 2 was a horrendously politicized video game.
Oh, absolutely.
It was real. There was some really deep cuts into sort of political ideological thinking in that game, particularly towards the end.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And but yeah, people bleat nowadays that they don't want politics in their video games. It's like, define politics. Your politics are different from some other person's politics. Your politics are that you don't like people who are different to you.
Yes.
Bluntly.
Yeah, and let's sort of move quickly back onto the because I'm aware that we've sort of set a rough time limit for what we want to talk about, but it's but so after you've done this, after you've done the bit with the murder,
doing the murder.
I was just trying to think what the hell.
After you've done the bit with the murder, we're still in the game, aren't
we? So yeah, you start off as Ellie, and that's where the revenge quest sort of takes place. Now, you kind of go through a few different characters. So you look at some characters and go, right, okay, I'm going to go through that character. I'm going to find that character. I'm going to find that person. And it's almost like it's kind of like a Kill Bill situation in a way. You've got a death list. You've got to find them. You've got to kill them. Eventually, like I say, you get to finding what was her name? The last person that you find, I can't remember who it was. Please do forgive me. But you go to find Ellie, you go to find Abby, sorry, and you can't find her. As I say, you go back to the theater, and Abby comes in and kills Jesse, who is the one of the new characters. Now, I did say earlier that what wasn't true was that Ellie wants a baby, so tells Dina to get pregnant. That isn't true, but Dina is pregnant.
Right.
So basically, Dina was in a relationship with a guy called Jesse, who is friends with everybody, and they've recently broken up. Dina kisses Ellie at this social event that they have, and yeah, that's kind of where that story starts.
Okay.
But yeah, so
that's totally a thing that can happen. IRL.
Yeah,
it's a thing that can happen.
Yeah. So like Jesse is he's a good character. I mean, he's not he's not the greatest character in the world. He's fairly well fleshed out. He's obviously got the priors with Dina and Ellie, but so Abby comes in, basically shoots Jesse straight away, and like Ellie starts freaking out a little bit. But where this bit in the game, which is the sort of midway point, where it starts to sort of turn things a little bit, is that Ellie is under the impression that the reason that they've killed Joel is because of the fact that he took her at the end of the first game. So at the end of the first game, you obviously have the moment which is seared into my brain, where Joel lies to Ellie. Ellie looks at him and goes, "Okay, and that's where the game cut. Like there is the moment of Joel going, they ran some tests, they couldn't find a cure. You know, there are loads of people that aren't, that are immune, and Ellie says okay to preserve the relationship, but throughout the game, in a series of flashbacks, you see Ellie going through moments in her past and going to like the hospital again and finding the medical notes and the tape recorders, which is basically them saying, right, well, we need to, we can create a cure, but we need to kill the host and things like that. And she actually confronts Joel about it, and Joel says, this is what's happened. So Ellie then understands that she has been the cure all along, but the way to get the cure out there would have been to kill her.
Okay.
She has no idea about Abby's reasonings for killing Joel. She thinks that's what it is. So after that halfway point in the game, you then go to Abby's point of view, and this is where a lot of people, even though the whole Abby's trans or whatever conversation, I think a lot of people are still saying that they're pissed off, because I don't want to play as a new character. I want to play as Ellie and Joel. I want to play as but
this isn't my story.
Yeah, no, exactly. Like it doesn't feel fraught. It doesn't feel like they're trying to force anything in through this story. But essentially, what you start to see is that Abby is this soldier. She's a kind of she's portrayed as a very one-dimensional, aggressive person. But what you get throughout her story arc is an expansion on that. It's not a it's never going to be a Hollywood blockbuster all on its own. As part of the whole, it makes complete sense. But when you're playing as Abby, you start to see things slightly differently, because as Ellie, you've been so hell bent on getting revenge on the people that killed Joel, but you don't understand their reasons for doing it. Like, you think you've got an idea behind it, but ultimately the reason that you want to kill Abby is the same reason that Abby wanted to kill Joel. And it's kind of, because they killed somebody that was incredibly close to them, that father figure. And what happens is that as the game goes on, you don't necessarily feel sympathetic, because that's, it's hard to feel sympathetic for anybody in this game because it's just so fucking bleak. But you start to feel like you can see why Abby is so pissed off, because ultimately she had somebody kill her father. She wants to go after that person, and that person, she eventually gets that person, and then this random tag-along girl that just so happened to get there, because Ellie sees Joel die. I don't know if I said that earlier.
Okay,
Ellie is in the room when Joel is killed.
Okay.
So those clips of her screaming and going, "No, please don't," and all of that in all the trailers, that's at that point.
Okay.
So yeah, you can see the motivations behind it. You can see the cogs turning in the game, and you think, right, okay, well, when this hand gets to this point on the clock, and when this point gets to that point, and something's going to explode and something's going to kick off. And the way that it builds the tension towards the final stretch of the game is that it just keeps on drip feeding those little moments where, for example, the bit where in the preview where you stab the person that's playing the Vita, you got that person playing a Vita at the bottom of the hospital, and you stab them, you kill them, there you go, they're dead. What you then see from Abby's point of view is that person maybe 6 hours previously.
Right, so you get to learn who they are and their relationship with everyone else.
Yeah, it's a very brief interaction,
right?
But it's the fact that you've got that depth of story. Like you will be able to. They've had a brief conversation, and then you suddenly realise, you go, oh, hang on a minute, that's the last time that Abby sees that person alive.
So it flips it on its head, and it turns these relationships into less of a binary thing, less of a these guys are good, these guys are bad, but sort of
Yes.
saying, actually, in this given situation, it's, I guess it's something that The Walking Dead does a lot, isn't it?
It is, and I was a bit reluctant to use that kind of that analogy, mainly because I've not seen a lot of The Walking Dead or read a lot of The Walking Dead,
Yeah.
but also because I am very much aware that a lot of people seem to think that The Walking Dead has shit the bed.
I mean, the series is awful. I couldn't get past series 1 of it, but I've read the books, and the books are finished actually.
Okay.
So yeah, and they are good. They do go on for a while, but they are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, yeah, it's that sort of, if you boil it down to its core components and write them on a piece of paper,
Mm,
it would seem incredibly trite.
mm.
But then so does everything.
Okay, interesting.
If
Well,
if you
yeah.
boil the first game down to its component parts, you've got deadly disease, girl just so happens to be immune. Woman takes girl who just so happens to be immune to smuggler. Smuggler has lost his daughter. Oh, what a shame. What's the bet that they end up becoming a father-daughter couple? If you frame it in that way, that game sounds shit.
I mean, anything sounds like that. If you could put things on paper that unless you're telling some kind of realistic drama, if you want some kind of narrative agency to it, you have to put in coincidences. You just have to try and make them as entertaining as possible. I don't think believable is the right word, but you have to make them entertaining.
Yes, yeah, 100%.
Yeah,
So I mean, as I say, you play as Abby for a while,
yeah,
and you get to understand her motivations behind everything. You get to understand her psyche, where she's come from. Like you've got her ex-boyfriend is Owen, who is with somebody else in her group of WLF people now, and she's called Mel. Mel is now pregnant, so Abby's thinking, shit, okay, well, guess I'm never going to get back with him then. And while that's going on, you've obviously got the infected still, so they're trying to keep the infected at bay. But throughout the time with Abby, there's never any moments where I just think this is pointless. Like it's interesting to discover her side of the story. There is one moment actually, which is about 3/4 of the way through her section, where you end up in the bottom of a hospital. So that the hospital that you travel to as Ellie and kill Nora at the end of it is actually the hospital that you're in as Abby about 3/4 of the way through her section.
okay,
And when you're going through that hospital as Abby, you come across this massive, like, huge freak of a boss called the Rat King.
right.
And because
Nothing
the reason
to do
it's
with
called
Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
sadly not.
Okay.
The reason it's called the Rat King is because in the description of it in the character viewer, it says that a Rat King is what happens when one rat basically fuses into another.
Right.
After they're left alone for so long, they start devouring each other and they
Right.
start morphing into each other, and it's just this.
Nice.
It's this really manky, horrible collaboration between a bloater and a stalker, which is it's gross.
Nice.
And I tell you what, it's one of the most terrifying segments I've ever played in a fucking video game. You could have taken my chair away from me, and I would have still been sat exactly where I was because I was that tense.
Nice.
It's brilliant. So to sort of to move on to wrap up, because I'm aware that we've gone a little bit long. What happens towards the end of the game is that Ellie kind of says, right, okay, I'm done with this. Abby fights Ellie, and so after this fight with Ellie and Abby, Abby is essentially standing over Ellie with a machete, and she basically says to her, "Don't let me ever see you again." because by this point Abby has befriended one of the other tribes in the game, like a child from one of the other tribes called the Seraphites, who calls themselves Lev.
Right.
Interesting side note, lots of people are quoting a Wall Street Journal review which says they've said that there's a trans character in the game. That must mean it's Abby. Abby's bad. Boo. I don't like trans people. What they're actually saying in that review is there is a trans person, but it's very, very subtly hinted at, and it's Lev, who is a secondary character that you play as, or you play with, sorry, for a few hours.
Right. Who accompanies
Sorry to
you.
burst your bubble, but Abby's not the trans person. It's
Right.
Lev.
But there was someone in there that was like that, so...
It's the agenda.
It's the gender
Anyway,
agenda. Sorry, that was terrible.
dear God, Andrew.
I'm
Anyway,
sorry.
so yeah, she basically looks at Lev, and Lev kind of sort of dissuades her from killing Ellie. And she goes, I better never see you again. What happens then is it cuts to, I think, a couple of years in the future. Dina's had the baby, and her and Ellie are in this little farmhouse out in the countryside. And yeah, what happens is Tommy comes along after a little while, sat in the farmhouse, and says, "Ellie, I think I've found her." Because Ellie's having flashbacks to seeing Joel get killed. Like there's a really effective moment actually where she goes out to rustle to herd some sheep, and she goes into the back of the barn. And as she goes to the barn, like she gets this sudden vivid picture of Joel with his head bashed in on the floor, and it's like holy shit. And then you realise what she's going through. So Tommy comes along and says, I think I know where she is. I think she's here. Dina basically chases Tommy out of the house and goes, no, she's not doing this. And then Ellie kind of gets up in the middle of the night, and you think, oh Christ, are we going to do this? And the last 2 hours of the game, last 2-3 hours of the game, are spent as Ellie again going to where, like this basic compound where Abby is, and she goes there with the sole intention of killing her. Like that's what she goes to do. Like ultimately, yeah, she's had enough, and she's got it in her head that if I kill her now, that's going to be it. It's going to be over. So you get to this island, you find out that yes, Abby's been taken prisoner on this island, or this resort. Sorry, you chase her down, you find where she is, and it turns out that she's kind of made a bit of an error, shall we say, when she's been in prison. So they take her out to the sea and tie her to a massive spike in the middle of the sea, a bit like a crucifixion, where there are loads of people just hanging there by their hands as the sea comes in until they die. So you eventually find Lev, you eventually find Abby, you cut them down, and Abby says thank you, and then you sort of, as Ellie, you go, I'm not here to let you go, and starts beating the shit out of her. So you have this fight between Abby and Ellie when you are playing as Ellie, yes.
Yeah.
And it gets really brutal. Like there's a point where you're punching the shit out of her, and eventually Ellie smacks her in the face, knocks her to the ground, and then starts throttling her and putting her head under the water, and throttling her and just continually holding her head under the water. And then something snaps. Something snaps in Ellie's head, and she goes, "No, I can't do this." And she kind of pulls Abby's head up, and says, "I don't ever want to see you again," or it's something along those lines. And Abby and Lev head away on a boat, and Ellie is just left to wander off and head back to her farm. Now, before she goes, Dina is basically sitting there telling her, "You better not. You can't do this. You can't do that. We were over this. This was part of our lives that was done. We need to just forget this. Like it's over." So Ellie goes, and then when she gets back to the farmhouse is completely empty. You know,
Bad choices.
there's some sheets folded up on the bed. There's nothing. There's not even a note. So there's no goodbye or anything like that. But there is a really heartbreaking moment at the very end of the game, where in the first game, Joel says, "I'm going to teach you how to play the guitar." In the opening credits of this game, Joel is building a guitar for Ellie because he builds guitars. So he's building a guitar for Ellie that's got her tattoo inlaid on one of the frets.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout the game, Joel teaches Ellie how to play a song called "If I Ever Were to Lose You," and throughout the game, you play a bunch of different songs at random points. You'll pick up, you'll find a guitar on stage in the theatre, so you play that. There's a guitar in a music shop, which leads to an amazing acoustic cover of "Take on Me" by Aha. It's fantastic. I will send you the recording of it at some point. It is fantastic.
Yeah.
But there's that, and then you've got this feeling that the guitar and the fact that she can play the guitar, and this song in particular, "If I Ever Were to Lose You," is this connection to Joel. Like it's this link to Joel. And during the fight with Abby in the sea, Ellie at one point goes to, I think, as she's trying to strangle her, Abby bites half of two of Ellie's fingers off.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's quite, that's quite
Savage.
brutal.
But
what happens is it's actually the ring and the pinky finger on her left hand.
Right.
So
yeah,
when
fret hand.
So when you get back to the farmhouse, you're walking around and you're thinking, shit, everything's gone. Ellie's got nothing left. Dina's gone. She's taken the baby with her, who is called JJ, which is very obviously Joel and Jesse, which is a really cute touch. But then Ellie goes up to the room that had all of her stuff in it. So like all of her drawings, all of her artwork, all of her music, all of her, her man cave, if you like. And she goes in and the door's closed, and then she goes upstairs. You open the door and everything is just as it was the last time that you were in there. And the guitar's there. You pick up the guitar and you go to play it. Like when you go to play the guitar, normally you swipe the trackpad up and down.
Right.
So it's like a little bit of interactivity. And as you swipe the touchpad, you've got like the left stick will say which chord you want to play. So you point at the chord, you swipe the thing. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Yeah. I'm playing guitar.
It's Wind Waker.
Yeah. And what happens is you get it right. So you point the analog stick at like 7:00, and it's like you swipe, and you've got it right, but it sounds wrong. Like it sounds like that.
She's missing two of the notes from the chord.
Exactly. Like it sounds like that point in Guitar Hero when you get that like. That really weird fucked up sound.
Yeah.
So it's because she's had these two fingers bitten off by Abby, and like she tries to play the song that Joel taught her, and honestly it's fucking heartbreaking. Because you
sounds like a barrel of laughs.
Yeah. I mean, you've just got this game that's like this person had this person taught the character that you've spent so long with. Joel taught Ellie so much, and the one positive thing that she's got left in her life, because Joel's been killed, is the fact that he taught her how to play guitar. So after the fact that Joel is obviously no more, Ellie will continue to play guitar as that link between her and Joel. And then she's so obsessed with finding Abby that there is a point where her life is fine. Her life is as perfect as it's ever going to be. She still suffers flashbacks. She has PTSD, but her life is what she needed it to be. But she's still deep down, she's so obsessed with finding this person and ending their life the way that they did Joel's, that she can't let it go. She can't just sit there and, sit at night and play guitar and sing to Dina and just sit there and talk to each other. She has to finish this. And when she does, she goes to finish it. She can't bring herself to do what she needs to do.
But she
And
suffers for it.
yeah, and the consequence is that all of a sudden she's now not able to do what she
Is
what
that
she
how it?
loves.
Is that how the whole thing's left then?
So what
With that in that
happens?
situation.
So what happens is, Lev and Abby kind of ride off in a boat. Abby is completely broken as a person.
Yeah.
Lev is completely broken as a person at this point. They've been strung up for God knows how
Yeah.
long. I think at that point they just go, "Fuck this! I just want to go
Yeah.
and have a life. It doesn't need to be a good life. I just want to have a life."
Yeah.
Ellie goes back to the farm thinking Dina might be there. She gets there and she's not. She goes upstairs. She goes to play the guitar. She goes to play the song that Joel taught her, and she can't. And the game ends where Ellie just kind of realizes that she can't play the guitar anymore.
Yeah.
She gets the guitar, she puts it against a windowsill, and just walks out.
Wow.
So the final shot of the game is from the neck, like across the neck of the guitar,
Yeah.
across this field of this farmhouse that Ellie and Dina lived in,
Yeah.
and it's just Ellie walking like out of this field, and that's it. Like people will no doubt say, and I have seen already from some people that are reading some of the leaks and the more accurate leaks that have come out since the video was published, which I couldn't really talk about because that would involve time travel.
Yeah.
But people have been talking about these leaks, which do include the ending now, and you can't. You can't just take it and say, oh well, she got 2 fingers bitten off and she can't play the guitar, lol, that's bad. It's like, well, yeah, but when you look into the actual context of it, it's horrendous.
Because the whole story is about. I mean, look, some people want Transformers. Some people want something that has more substance to it, and that's fine. You can go for a 10-course meal, or you can have a McDonald's. You can have both, but you might not like both, and I think that's fine as well. But I think it's brave that a game is trying that kind of narrative, because a game you expect to be uplifting, you expect it to end on a positive note where you're the hero, and I think that's what a lot of people see as interactive media. It's like, well, I'm the hero. This is my story. I'm the hero. It's like, well, no,
Absolutely.
it doesn't have to be that way. And I think creatively, developers are going to stifle themselves by doing things that way, by having to focus on the hero's story, by having to focus on good versus evil. If you can create a more nuanced story, I think that should be absolutely welcome. And I think creators have been trying to do that for a long time. I mean, you look at the kind of stuff that comes out of Quantic Dreams sort of repertoire. And I know that's probably a bit more on the nose than
I
some
mean,
stuff,
to me, the biggest example of it so far, and it's one that I mentioned in the review, is Spec Ops.
Yeah. Oh God, Spec Ops left me wrecked. That ruined me. That game did. But this does seem something very similar. But I mean, it's a story about love and loss, and how that can be perpetuated if we can't learn to forget. And I think it's very interesting, the meta narrative that's building up around this.
It's really ironic. I mean, the thing is, the first game was all about love and what love could drive you to. And I'm very, very much aware that this is basically a quote from the development team. So call me a shill if you must.
Oh,
But
when's your Ferrari coming?
But they said that the first game is a game about love and what it can drive you to. The second game is a game about hate and what it can drive you to. And it's true. Like, there wouldn't be that ending if it weren't for the hate that Ellie has. And I think, to sort of tie it all together, the fact that people are getting so pissed off about this game and they haven't got any context behind anything.
It's ironic, given the story.
Yeah, I mean it is ironic, but I think
God,
that I think
when
the
you put it that
problem,
way.
the problem is that, like, ultimately my problem with a lot of the hate around this is that people are framing it in such like a disingenuous way
Mm,
that I don't like this because my favorite character got killed. It's
mm,
like, well, let's be honest. You don't like this because you think your favorite character got killed by somebody that you deem to be inferior to you.
mm,
Like that's ultimately where it comes down to.
mm,
If Joel had been killed by the son of that surgeon, I guarantee there would be none of this discourse. You may have had a couple of people that were a bit pissed off, but you wouldn't have had anywhere near the
no,
level of
it
discourse
wouldn't
here.
have been you. It wouldn't have been weaponized.
No, no, absolutely not.
Yeah.
But anyway, that is that's kind of nearly an hour of Last of Us 2 story spoilers. We kind of initially intended to go for 30 minutes, but you know we got started and we didn't want to finish. That's about right. But like it is a very complex game, and I did say this in my review. That it's not straightforward. You know, it's dark, it's difficult, it is troubling. Like there are troubling things in that narrative, but it's not for the reasons that people are getting pissed off about. So, if you do have any comments or any questions, please do let us know. Drop them in the
This is
comments
going to
below.
be a video, right? I mean, anyone listening to this.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah. Stick it
I'm
on
gonna
video.
have, yeah, I'm gonna have some video footage
Yeah.
playing behind all of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
But like, honestly, just let us know like your thoughts on it. If you are in the camp of the leaks were bad, like, okay, fine, that's that's your opinion on
Try
it. But
and try and articulate it in such a way that doesn't make you sound like an ass. I think would be a good way. We're open to having a discussion, but don't assume that your opinion is right. We're
oh,
not assuming
absolutely,
that our opinions are right,
no, like
but
that's the thing. Like
let's have a
ultimately,
discussion.
yeah, like the whole discourse around anything at this
Mm,
point is about opinions. Now, I am not saying that my opinion is 100% correct and that you should go out and buy this game and I'm going to frog march you to GameStop or wherever the hell it is that you go. I'm not saying that at all. The reason that I write reviews is because I like writing, I like making videos, and I like talking about video games.
right.
So combine the three, that's what we get. But I'm not gonna frog march someone to a shop and say buy this game. Like, no, play what the fuck you want. I don't care. Like, ultimately, I'll watch what I want. I'll play what I want. Like,
Mm.
if I'd have heard the leaks beforehand, if I'd have heard, oh, by the way, Joel dies like 3 hours in. Oh, shit. Okay, I guess I'll see why.
Yeah.
Not kind of immediately start screeching and going, well, I don't want to play this game. This game isn't me. Not my Last of Us or whatever. Because I have that intrigue, I have that interest there, and I think ultimately, a lot of people that have been pissed off about this, if the fact that Joel dies had not been leaked, I don't think there would have been any problems with it because ultimately, like, lol, Joel gets killed by a tranny with a golf club. It's like, no, that's not true.
No.
Like that's just not true. And people are going to go, well, it is true, but it's not. Like that statement in and of itself is not true.
Okay.
And I'm disappointed that the level of hate has got to where it is with this game because, as I said in my review, if you focus on what this game isn't, you'll be able to draft up a list as long as your arm. But
everybody wants a scapegoat, or
yeah, like
yeah,
if you focus on what this game
yeah,
is, this game is legitimately fantastic. So,
but I'm not going to play it.
No, you're
No.
not, because
But I can. Do you know what? I'm not going to play it, but I can recognise that it's a good game. It's just a game that's not for me.
Yeah,
And
and
I
I think
think
that's
we all
that.
need to say that a bit more, especially
Yeah,
about Dark Souls, Ben.
Dark Souls is shit. No,
Anyway,
no, that is the correct reaction to
yeah.
this game. Like, it's not for me. If it's not for you, fine. If you liked the first one and this one doesn't sound like it's for you, then fine. But at least go off some accurate information, and at
Mm,
least, kind of accept that there is this reasoning behind the high scores, and
yeah.
it's not because I've got a Ferrari parked down my driveway, because I
You've definitely
definitely
not got a
fucking
Ferrari
don't.
parked out your driveway.
Um,
Anyway,
yeah,
I
so
think
I mean
that's
that's
a good
that's
point to wrap it up, isn't
yeah,
it?
absolutely. So that's going to be the point where we wrap up. Hopefully you've enjoyed this, and hopefully if you have listened to the full hour, you probably deserve some sort of medal, because we've probably rambled on
We're
for
not
quite.
giving medals out.
We might give
We
medals
don't.
out.
We haven't been paid enough by Sony to give medals out.
Oh dear. Anyway, yes. So the Last of Us 2, Last of Us Part 2 is out tomorrow. At the time that this goes up, we are able to post a lot of things as of this point, because the game is officially out somewhere in the world. We have got a trophy video going up for all of the trading cards. So if you are stuck on any of the trading cards, and I'm guessing you're probably going to be stuck on the one in Hillcrest, because that little fucker took me ages.
You were a very angry boy about that.
I was very angry. Like, in our group chat, I was livid that I couldn't find this. Like, I played through that level about 15 times to try and find a trading card. In the end, it was under a bed. But yes, so we have a video on that that's live now. I am hoping to get a second one up, which is going to be about the coins, which is the collectible in Abby's half of the game. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to get that done in time, because there's still a couple more that I've got to find. And I will also have a video up of what The Last of Us Part 2 looks like at 60 frames a second, which is that's silky smooth.
You did
and
some
really
time
good.
travel for that.
I did, yes. I
Okay.
went forward, got a PS5, and came back. So
Nice.
But
Right.
yes, thank you for joining me, Andy. I hope you've enjoyed this whistle stop tour of The Last of Us Part 2.
It's been a ball.
And
I've had fun.
excellent stuff. And hopefully, if you guys have enjoyed it, please do subscribe to the channel, drop us a like, leave us a comment, and we will see you guys very soon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.